Perfect. Oh, hi there. Welcome to another edition of the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith, and we are live in studio. Today is Saturday, December 10th, and we will be with you the next hour to answer your legal questions. 877-943-9673. That is your live and local number. To be part of today's program, give us a call now with your legal question, and we will be happy to help any way that we can. 877-943-9673. That's your live studio line, open lines. Give us a call now. You can be the first caller of the show and help set the tone. 877-943-9673. And you can always email us, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. That email address, of course, works throughout the week. You can always submit your questions to us, and we'll be happy to help you as best we can. And you submit them during the show. We do the best we can to get to those. And you can also submit them directly through the website. Visit our website at attorneypatricksmith.com. Check out my bio, all the office locations. You can request an appointment. Check out old archives of the previous shows that we've done, so you can go back and listen to your favorite broadcast on Florida homestead law, maybe our discussion of overturning Roe versus Wade, our discussing short-term rentals, which, by the way, we have an update on the short-term rental controversy currently brewing in Indian Rocks Beach and really throughout the state of Florida. We also have a follow-up on our voting age limit discussion from last week's show. But before we do that, we have a very special guest in studio. We are blessed to have with us today Attorney Matthew Kendall. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Patrick. Thank you for having me back again.
Yeah, so
Pleasure to be here.
For those of you not familiar, Matt is our criminal defense attorney we turn to whenever we have all things criminal defense come into the show or in my practice. And Matt and I have known each other since high school and been buddies for a long time. And he's fortunate to bless us with the time this morning to answer your legal questions. So particularly your criminal defense questions. You've got a special treat in studio this morning, joining us, Attorney Matthew Kendall. But again, we're taking any and all legal questions you have. We'll be happy to help as best we can. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. And before we turn into sort of our main topic for the show, since Attorney Matt Kendall is here, I do want to give out our parental disclaimer. For those of you listening with little ones, little ears listening, this is your warning and your sort of 30-second notice to maybe switch stations and just tune back in next week. The subject matter for today's show may be a little too adult for some of those listening ears, but it is something I think that's worthy of a discussion because there's lots of strong opinions out there, and it's certainly a hot legal topic. So this is your last chance, parents of little ones listening, for you to flip the channel and then go ahead and tune back in next week. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about the Peacock special, Where the Truth Lies, the new Casey Anthony documentary. And that seemed appropriate to me since Matt's here and he practices in criminal defense. So Matt, I guess initially, just in remembering the Casey Anthony trial, because it was highly publicized, what's the most prominent memory that stands out in your mind?
Well, obviously the most prominent would have been that moment they came back with the not guilty verdict on the main charges. Obviously, that's the one that, emotionally you remember. I remember sitting in high school when they came back with the O.J. Simpson verdict. I remember I was sitting in typing class at Lake Region High School, and I forget who the actual teacher was, but that's kind of what you remember before. From factual standpoint, just kind of remembering, the testimony, the pointing the finger at her dad. I forget his name.
George Anthony.
That was a big side of the defense, and just kind of not being able to prove how this young girl died, and kind of the circumstances, and really just how more of the cover-up that was alleged that Miss Anthony did.
So if you're out there and you've watched the documentary Where the Truth Lies, that's on Peacock, regarding the Casey Anthony story and trial and the ultimately the passing of her young daughter, Kaylee. If you have an opinion on that, or if you watched the documentary, or you have an opinion on the trial, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. 9673. Yeah, I definitely think it was one of those moments where everyone remembers where they were. So for my dad's generation, it was when Kennedy was shot. And for our generation, it was sort of like you said,
we had a lot.
We have numerous. And like 9/11. I remember walking where I was walking with my now wife of 19 years at the time, and I think this is one of those moments too. You remember, like you said, where we were, and I think we had the same typing class. I don't remember her name either, and I feel bad about that. But I remember the haircut. It was like a little bob kind of haircut. Anyway,
yeah, I remember where I was when the Oklahoma City bombing occurred.
Timothy McVeigh, that's right. Yeah,
the Murray Federal Building, I think it was. I was in the 8th grade class, and yeah, I remember. I think I was asleep actually when 9/11. It was the college years, so I had some, I had a lively nighttime activity that had me sleeping still. I think when it occurred.
See, you could have cleaned it up so much and said you were studying late for finals or something.
All
right, 877-943-9673. So give us a call if you have a legal question we can help you with this morning. I'm Attorney Patrick Smith. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, and with us in studio, very special guest, Attorney Matthew Kendall, criminal defense attorney, and you practice all throughout Central Florida, Pinellas, Lake.
I've handled cases all the way up to Alachua County and Gainesville, for those of you that aren't familiar with all the counties. And I've actually handled cases all the way down to Key West and then over to Indian River County, Cocoa Beach area.
Yeah, someone was asking me the other day why,
Bureau,
whenever we talk about an area of the state, I always break it down to the county. And I think that's a lawyer thing. I think if you're a practicing attorney, that's just sort of how you divide the estate up as into those 67 counties. So that makes a lot of
and a lot of times the courthouses aren't in the big known city of the county. They might move. The county seat might be a smaller place like Bartow rather than Lakeland being the big city in Polk County. So
we can test your knowledge. Where's the county seat in Sumter County?
In Sumter County, would it?
This could be a fun game. We got 66 more to go.
That's true. Would it be Webster maybe?
Bushnell.
Bushnell.
Yeah. So you're close. You're close. So,
I've done cases in Sumter County.
So if you have a question for Matt or myself, 877-943-9673. We're discussing Peacock's new documentary, Where the Truth Lies, the story regarding Casey Anthony trial and the death of her daughter, Kaylee. So if you have an opinion on that, 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. You can give us a call now. We're live and local, happy to help. And you can always email your question, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. You can email me directly, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. Or we'd love to talk to you live. 877-943-9673 is your live and local studio line. I guess when I was watching the documentary and I'm watching the things that Casey is saying about her father, the accusations, I guess my thought goes to defamation and whether or not these are potentially defamatory comments. Now, defamation, for those of you who aren't familiar with defamation in Florida, it's a false statement made by someone that knows it is a false statement with the intent to damage that person's character or reputation. So it's actually, and the reason why it's most relevant to discuss it with you, Kendall, is it's actually a crime in Florida. I mean, we're talking about it's rarely prosecuted, but to defame someone is actually a crime under Florida state law.
Yes, it can be. There's actually one specific statute that makes it a first-degree misdemeanor, I believe, to defame the chastity of a young or an unmarried or married woman. Like I said, I've never seen that prosecuted in the almost 16 years that I've practiced criminal law. But yeah, it's still on the books.
And when I see laws like that, it's saying to me, especially with the words like chastity, it's saying, tell me you're based on English common law without telling me you're based on English common law, which is where that comes from. I mean, that's very clearly a leftover vestige from, Blackstone's commentary. You can hear that sort of language and that sort of almost poetic drafting of laws that happened in ancient England. And we just sort of adopted it here. It's on the books. I mean, we were talking before the show started about there was a law a few years ago on the books that it was illegal for a man and woman to live together and hold themselves out as husband and wife without being legally married, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you probably deal with it more than me with your fee simple absolute or your fee simple determinatives. That's probably, I mean, you probably see a lot more in the property realm than we do in the criminal law. Criminal law is mainly statutory now. Everything's been codified. But that's one of the few that still remain out there.
Well, it is. And it's one of those things where we deal with this quite frequently, especially in the estate planning world, where people are introduced as husband and wife, and in fact, they're not legally married. And it's for whatever reason. So a lot of times it has to do with government benefits. Maybe it's a divorce, a settlement decree under an MSA. If they remarry, they lose some benefits. So a lot of people more and more now are taking advantage of the married in the eyes of God status without getting an actual marriage license. So
yeah, that can have a really important distinction if you're charged with a crime or maybe any other type of lawsuit, is that there's a spousal privilege, meaning that a confidential communication between spouses, if one person's charged, they can't compel the other spouse to testify against them. But that only applies if you're legally married. It doesn't apply to your common law marriage, possibly out of another state. It doesn't apply to what you hold yourself out as. You have to be legally married in order to avail yourself of certain privileges.
And under Florida's DOMA, our Defense of Marriage Act, common law marriage is, of course, not recognized. So we don't have common law marriage in Florida. And a lot of constitutional scholars debate whether or not that would be upheld if it were ever tried at a constitutional level as a restriction on marriage. And most scholars that I've read have said they think it would. It would stand up just fine because it applies the same to everyone. Whatever your race, gender, sexual orientation, the Defense of Marriage Act in Florida applies the same to all. So maybe you have a legal question for us this morning. 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673, or an opinion on the new Peacock documentary, Where the Truth Lies, regarding Casey Anthony. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now. Our email is patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. All right, let's go to Port Charlotte. Let's talk to Robert. Robert, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hi.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, I just had a collection notice added to my credit report. I'm assuming from my ex-wife on a lease that I was under almost 5 years ago. And apparently she's been fraudulently signing my last name. And the backstory is I got divorced. She kept my last name. I got remarried and took my wife's new name, my wife's name. So I'm not even that last name anymore. And she went fraud on lapse on the lease payment, apparently in August of this year. With me, I had no knowledge of any of that. And that was on my credit report. And if they had actually paid.
So what I would recommend you do, and this is based on creditor, debtor attorneys I've worked with over the years and had on the radio show, Robert, send them a letter basically saying you dispute the debt and ask them to please verify, and then just sort of go from there and see what sort of response you get. If you get any response to that correspondence, give us a call at the office. We'll put you in touch with one of those creditor, debtor attorneys who can get it sorted out from there as far as them coming after you for a debt that you did not owe. Are they calling your cell phone, or are they just sending?
Oh, yeah, they called my cell phone,
Yeah. So now I remember from other attorneys being on the show to discuss this, there are particular penalties for creditors who call your cell phone for debts that you do not owe legitimately. So I would just say, go ahead and write that letter saying, very little. Don't give them any information. Don't think you're being helpful by giving them your social, date of birth. You don't need to provide them anything. Just say, I hereby dispute the debt. Please verify it. That'll go in that file, and then they will look into whether or not it is a valid debt. And hopefully they'll discover that they have no proof that you owe the debt, and then they will take it off your record, and it will go quietly into the night.
Right. They're saying that because I signed in 2017 that I'm still liable today.
Well, you may be. It's going to come down to the terms of the lease. So since you did sign the lease, it will speak to your liability. So I think have that reviewed by an attorney and see whether or not that is the reason they're holding you accountable for this debt. If it is, you may be stuck. But at the end of the day, there may be some wiggle room there, and this may be a situation where they're just going after any and everyone and sort of letting you claw your way out of it. But Robert, go back to what you said earlier. You said you since remarried, correct?
Right, remarried.
Congratulations on the remarriage. And you took your wife's last name.
Very progressive.
Yeah, so talk to me about that if you don't mind sharing. What was the decision process in taking your wife's last name? And you don't have to say what it is. I'm just curious. Is it a famous last name?
Oh, no. My ex-wife kept my last name. My new wife was like, I'm not, gonna have the same last name as your ex-wife. And I said, well, I'm fine, thank you. That's no problem.
So in the divorce, your wife took your name. She kept your last name. And was that negotiated, like in the MSA, that she would get to keep her name and you would change yours?
No.
Okay.
Well, typically the names stay the same unless there's a clause in the divorce decree that goes back to where the wife or ex-spouse reverts back to the original name.
Yeah.
She had that option and chose not to change it back.
Okay. Well, and sometimes when people are doing name changes, judges will get suspicious that they're doing it in an attempt to defraud a creditor. It sounds like your reasons were completely legitimate, Robert.
Right.
But it sounds like it's one of those situations where you were just trying to get away from that chapter of your life, and it sounds like you've done so successfully. So I think write that letter, disputing the debt, asking them to verify, and then sort of go from there.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right, Robert, did you watch the documentary about Casey Anthony?
I have not. I remember the news years ago.
Where were you when you heard the verdict?
I was probably living in Maine at the time.
Do you agree with the verdict?
There's so much gray area there. I don't know. I didn't follow it that closely to have a real opinion on it anymore. I just felt bad for the child.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are in that boat, Robert. That's the ultimate thing that can't be fixed in this terrible tragedy, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the tragedy.
Well, Robert, we appreciate you calling in. Okay, have a great day.
All right. Have a great day.
Yes, sir, you too. Alrighty, 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm Attorney Patrick Smith, and we have a special guest in studio, Attorney Matthew Kendall. We're taking all your legal questions, but since Matt is here, especially your criminal defense questions, and we're discussing the Peacock documentary, Where the Truth Lies, the Casey Anthony interview that she recently did and is now airing on the Peacock platform. So, Matt, have you ever had a situation where you had a client in like a high profile situation, they were acquitted, and then they turned around and were approached about doing something like a documentary or anything like that? And I'm curious if you have, sort of what is the thought process in doing that?
Well, we've given interviews to the press before, nothing like a full documentary series. But one of the networks, and I can't remember which one, they regularly send out emails to attorneys in the area asking us to submit cases that they think they might be good for a documentary or a TV spot or something like that. It's not something I normally reply to or I seek out. I don't really try to play my cases out in the media. I do submit statements sometimes in writing regarding cases. I do a lot of child abuse cases, and I represent teachers through the United School Employees of Pasco. So occasionally, when a teacher gets charged with child abuse that occurs while on the job, I usually get contacted by the media on those type of cases, and a lot of times we issue a statement just in writing.
All right. So if you have a legal question this morning, 877-943-9673. Open studio lines. We'll get you and your question right on the air. 877-943-9673 as we're discussing the Casey Anthony trial and the new Peacock documentary. We're also answering any and all other legal questions you may have. 877-943-9673. Or you can email me, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. Now, Matt, you have the fortunate blessing or perspective, rather, of having been a state attorney.
Yes.
And now you're in private practice on the defense side. So when you look at the Casey Anthony trial, having those two perspectives, what stands out? Like if you found yourself in either side, what are the things you think you might have done differently? I mean, a little Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, so just kind of when I went back, looked at the news articles, what I remember, and speaking with other attorneys while the case was going on, we kind of looked at, the way it was charged, the fact that they charged her with first degree murder and what evidence they actually had available to them to prove that charge. We really questioned whether or not she might have been overcharged based upon the evidence they actually had. If I remember correctly, the medical examiner couldn't really pinpoint the cause of death for the child, for young Kaylee. And there was obviously some other evidence out there too. But so that was kind of a discussion among other attorneys. And I think obviously the verdict might have showed that, maybe she was overcharged and that it might have been more media driven. I remember there was a lot of protests, outside or in various areas outside the courthouse regarding that. A lot of people with signs, wanting Casey to have the same fate as her daughter. So I don't know if that played a lot. And I think John Ashcroft, the prosecutor, if that was not Ashcroft, I forget what his name was, but he went on to, I think, become the state attorney and then ultimately lose his election later on, I think. But yeah, that was kind of some of the things that caught my eye. He wrote a book, I believe, too.
Well, and the old saying, you can indict a ham sandwich.
That's true.
So it's fairly easy to get an indictment. Now, you do remember who the key witness was for the state in the indictment proceedings?
I don't remember that.
It was Casey's father, George. So at the end of the day, I think that, I don't know the rationale behind the state attorney's office. I've never worked there. I'm not familiar with that. But for me, I agree with what you're saying. I think there is artistry in how you charge a defendant. And I noticed that in some cases, they will charge them with the most serious crime they're hoping to convict. But then they charge them with sort of the next tier down and basically give the jury consolation prizes, if you will, saying, hey, if we didn't get to this burden, maybe we got here. And you just think they just went all in on, first degree murder.
I think so. I didn't really watch a lot of the trial as it played out. But most crimes, especially felonies, not so much misdemeanors, have lesser included offenses that go along with them, meaning, like let's say a first degree murder has, X amount of elements. Let's just say 4 elements to prove. If they only prove 3, that might constitute a lesser included offense like second degree murder or manslaughter, or aggravated battery. So, and some offenses can have more than one, and some are permissive and some are required. And it just depends on what the parties ask for or what they argue to the jury. If you don't argue for a lesser, then the jury might not even consider it, even though it might be given in the jury instructions.
So you have a legal question, 877-943-9673. We're here and happy to help any way we can. We're, of course, discussing the Casey Anthony documentary on Peacock, Where the Truth Lies. So we would love to hear your thoughts. If you've had a chance to see the documentary, if you just remember the trial, you have a question about something, Attorney Matt Kendall, criminal defense attorney, is here to answer your criminal defense questions, but we're also taking any and all legal questions you have this Saturday morning. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now. We're live and local. Open studio lines will get you and your question right on the air. 877-943-9673. Or email me, Patrick at attorneypatricksmith.com. So I guess going back to the actual process of hiring your legal team in a capital case, not just anyone can defend someone who's being charged with first degree murder where the death penalty is on the table. There are certain requirements for an attorney who's going to defend that case. Maybe speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, so the criminal rules of procedure require any attorney that's at least going to be lead counsel in a death penalty case to be death qualified. And for instance, I'm not death qualified because I just never had the opportunity to do it. But you have to I think you actually have to lose 2 first degree murder cases because you actually have to participate in the sentencing aspect of a death penalty case, which is very different than any other criminal charge in Florida. So the death penalty has to be decided or recommended by the jury. So in all other criminal charges, the judge really gets to make the sentencing decision. So that's one. So you actually have to go through that process. And for the state attorney where I was at in Polk County, you really had to be there, probably 10, 20, 30 years before you could get that opportunity. All the prosecutors there had been there for many years, and that just wasn't my career track to be there for that long. But
so why do you think that is? What do you think the public policy behind that is? Is it just to protect, someone going in and saying, I'm going to try to protect this person's life and having no clue what's on the line? Do you think it's like seeing the other side of it?
Well, I think it's to protect the conviction if one is obtained. we have something called ineffective assistance of counsel. And those, what we commonly in the business refer to as 3850, which pertains to the criminal rule of procedure. Basically, if your counsel is ineffective in representing you, you could have your conviction overturned. And if that happens, you got to do the whole thing all over again.
Which is a huge waste
So,
of time and resources.
Yes, you want to make sure that, so the rule is there to make sure that the counsel involved are actually capable or have the experience to do it.
And I also think it has to do with the sort of the psychology behind the attorney, so that they can see how grave, no pun intended, these sort of trials are. This is not your typical case. Someone loses here, they could potentially lose their life. And I think that seeing the sentencing side of that sort of drives that home. I think it's also one of those things that's indelible. Like you will remember that sentencing hearing where your client lost and they're now headed to death row, and you had to sit there and listen to the judge say that. That has to be etched permanently in your memory. So maybe you have a question for us today. We're happy to help any way we can. 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, and we're going to go to Bradenton and talk to Bob. Bob, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, good morning. Thank you very much.
Hey.
Question on time here. We've got another enormous daily increase on time here. And I don't think our kids want to go. It's a good time of year, good question. But I don't think our kids want to go down the road. What happens from a take over perspective? Let's just say my kids inherit everything. What happens when, I die and they don't want it? What happens?
So the
Do I need
kid,
to donate it to somebody before I die?
if you can find someone who's willing to take it. But at the end of the day, what usually happens in those situations, the kids don't want it, they inherit it, so they will waste the asset. They will reach out to whomever owns the timeshare company and say, look, we're not going to seek to inherit this. We will sign whatever paperwork you require from us so that you guys can reacquire the title to the timeshare at no cost basis. You don't have to pay us anything, and you can just have it back and release us from any financial obligation. And that's the typical way that'll shake out, Bob, is just a surrender of the asset. Now, if you want to get out of it now, Attorney Scott Smothers is the attorney I work with most regularly on timeshare surrenders. And I'd be happy to put you in touch with him if you want to give me a call at the law office here during the week. And Scott can walk you through those procedures. There's sort of a 3-tiered process to that. But again, Scott can walk you through that.
Okay, just one final thing. Any idea what that costs from, in a window perspective, from an attorney perspective?
I have no idea, but Scott can sort of give you a breakdown of what his fees are and ahead of time so that you know kind of what you're getting into. And whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to pay for itself, because the nice thing is once you paid an attorney to get you out of it, you're done paying. With a timeshare, you're never really finished paying because, like you said, there's those annual fees, and then they often go up every year. So, Bob, did you have any thoughts on the Casey Anthony case? Do you remember the case?
I do not, but what I just not giving enough. I'm going to tell the names. I don't. We've fallen enough. I don't want to waste your viewers' time. But I will look at it again. You have stimulated my thought process to go look at it.
Well, Bob, we appreciate your call. And a wise man, what did the Confucius say? Know what you know and know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you know what you don't know, Bob, and we appreciate you calling in. Have a great Saturday, okay? All righty, 87. Yeah, thank you. All right, 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to be part of today's show. I'm Attorney Patrick Smith. With me in studio, our special guest, Attorney Matthew Kendall, criminal defense attorney. And we are here to answer any and all legal questions you have today. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now. We're live and local and happy to help any way we can. Email me, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. So, Matt, a lot of people think criminal defense, they think Perry Mason, they think Ben Matlock, and every case is simply defending someone who's being charged with murder. But that's, like you demonstrated earlier, when we talked about being death certified. That's sort of the rarer case. What are the more common criminal? So if I'm a criminal defense attorney, what are the day-to-day cases you're seeing on a regular basis?
On a more regular basis, you're going to see the DUIs. You're going to see drug possession, domestic batteries, which is most commonly battery between people that are somehow family related or live together, married, that kind of stuff. Sometimes it involves parents and their adult children. Those are going to be your normal day-to-day cases that come in.
So it's no
And
one.
traffic tickets.
Well, I was just about to say, and traffic tickets, because no one really wants to hire a criminal defense attorney, and a lot of people, criminal defense attorneys sort of sometimes get a bad rap like personal injury attorneys, and everyone likes to sort of poke fun, but you do that until you actually need one in your life, and then you couldn't be more thankful that there's one there, and I think that with criminal defense attorneys, the little bit I've been around, it seems to me it's so much about relationships, which I think is the crossover to estate planning. I mean, estate planning is really a relationships driven practice. I think with regard to criminal defense, especially, it's the criminal defense attorney's relationship with the prosecutor's office. And I think that, it's about having that working, and I'm sure you have your favorite counties, and I'm sure you have your sort of not so favorite counties to work with. I'm not going to ask you to label who's who, but maybe speak to the fact that, it's not, you can't necessarily be hired for a case in a county that you've never appeared. I mean, you could, but maybe speak to the fact that hiring someone who's experienced in the county where you're being charged can have some advantages.
Yeah, so obviously the law, the rules of evidence, those really apply or should apply equally in every county. So if you want an attorney to try a case, you can certainly go with the one you have. But it's kind of the little nuances, looking at, okay, what kind of deals do they usually give on these type of cases in that county? What are the special programs they have for potentially reducing charges or dismissing them, like pretrial intervention? Pasco Pinellas has a domestic violence deferred prosecution program, which is separate from the pretrial intervention program. They don't have that in a lot of counties. Like my main counties are Pasco, Hernando, and then Pinellas, and then Tampa a little bit lesser. So, those are the ones I'm more familiar with as far as like Hillsborough has a drive legal diversion program. Polk County, which I practice in, they have a traffic diversion program, whereas Pinellas and Pasco, they don't usually put traffic related criminal cases into diversion or pretrial intervention programs. So those are the things that you would want to have a local attorney to do. Obviously the relationship with the prosecutors help. I wouldn't say that relationship is going to get you a better deal, but it certainly gets you heard. It certainly says, okay, hey, I know this guy. They can say, oh yeah, we know Matt. Matt's a fair dealer. Matt's going to be respectful to us. He's not going to make outrageous allegations, and we can sit down and talk with him honestly about the case and maybe try to come to a resolution if that's what the client wants.
Well, of course, the other side of that coin is out there too. So if you make a bad reputation with the state attorney's office, I doubt they forget that either. I mean, I don't think that's what you're doing, but I'm saying I'm sure there are those situations that have occurred in the past.
I think it certainly can affect the type of resolution a client might be willing to get from the prosecutor if they're not willing to hear out what the attorney has to say in the mitigation. I think it definitely could. I don't want to say that it does. The prosecutors I've dealt with have typically always been very great to deal with, and they follow the law and they look at the mitigation. And even though there can be that negative personal relationship, I like to think that they don't let it affect their work, but I could see where that could happen. I think I've heard stories of it have happened.
There's a little bit of inside perspective on the day-to-day practice of a criminal defense attorney, folks. 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, and you can be part of our show, 877-943-9673, or email me, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. All right, we're going to go to Auburndale and talk to Tim. Tim, before I turn it over to you, I see what you want to talk about. Do not mention any names. Can you do that for me, Tim?
I can do that.
All right, Tim, go ahead.
Mine has to do with the 3850, 2016. I was charged with a crime that I did not do, and I was in the middle of a divorce. And the attorney that I was assigned through the defender's office had just got out of law 14 months before my case. She continuously urged me for a plea. I wanted to do a trial because I know I was innocent. I wasn't going to go this route. She continuously pressed me, telling me that if I didn't take this plea or whatever plea that they offered, that I would be convicted and in prison for 15 years. So I had no other choice. I ended up taking the plea, which was 2.5 years in prison and 12.5 years out on probation. I filed a 3850, and in the beginning, the local judge here, because I had found out through emails between the prosecutor and the defense attorney that there was no evidence. And the defense attorney said that they need to have it. The only email that I had seen is that they pointed evidence that, she was pushing me to get the plea, and in the end, they sent some evidence that my attorney in an email to the prosecutor said, well, I'm not going to look at it unless it goes to trial. Those are exact words. So when I started my 3850 process, the judge ordered or, gave the prosecutor 60 days to answer that question, and I think 5 others. And the prosecutor assigned at the time just simply said, well, we have evidence. And he didn't tell us where it came from or how he got it or anything like that. And I can't understand how the judge ended up denying it. And I can't understand how it is that I didn't even know that anything existed. It was never shown to me. My attorney didn't look at it. And emails between her and the prosecutor clearly state that whatever it was, she wasn't going to look at it anyway. So,
well, Tim, I think you've done a great job laying out the facts. And before I turn it over to Matt, because it's definitely a Kindle question, just to make sure, you're not currently represented by counsel regarding any of these charges or the 3850, correct? Okay. All right, Matt, this is all you, buddy. Go right ahead. What are your thoughts?
So obviously the record is usually, and the record when I mean, what can be shown from the court proceedings. So did this happen in Polk County?
Yeah.
Okay, so depending on how long ago it was, they use electronic court reporting, and it really captures everything that's said in court. So when you enter a plea in a case, the judge goes over a very long plea colloquy with you to make sure it's freely, knowingly, and voluntarily done. Also, there has to be what's called a factual basis for the plea. And I don't know if that was something that was stipulated to on the record, or if it was contained in the court file, or if the prosecutor put the factual basis on the record. But ultimately, it sounds like you made it a pretty good initial claim. It wasn't summarily denied from what you're telling me, meaning that there was actually a hearing on the matter. I'm not sure why. I'm sorry, say that again.
I was never given any kind of evidentiary hearing. I was never given. The only time I ever saw the judge was when I stood before him, and he asked me if I was pleading guilty.
Okay.
I kind of looked at it.
Yeah. So when was your motion for post-conviction relief denied?
2020.
Okay. Did you take any? Is it up on appeal, or did you appeal that decision?
I did appeal, and the second BCA said they denied it without giving any explanation, no case law, no.
Yeah, they what we call procurium affirmed it, meaning that means they found based upon the record, they found no issues with the conviction, basically, or at least by what was presented.
And then I went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, well, nothing we can really do because we don't have any previous case law or some other word that they use basically to say that they could look at it. I don't know what I'd have to pull it back up and read it, but it had something to do with they didn't have any previous case law on it.
Okay, so here's what I would recommend. There are ways to file successive claims, which means you can try more than once. Now, there are lawyers that specialize in post-conviction relief, and I'm not one of them. I usually focus it at the criminal trial level. So my advice would be to reach out to an attorney that focuses primarily or does a good portion of that. I know there's a couple in Tampa that if you want to call us up later at the office, 727-446-4800. At the law firm of Bauer, Kreider, Kendall, and Perry, we can give you that information out.
Well,
that's all right.
Yeah, don't do it while you're driving.
If you just call Patrick will get you.
I'll make sure you get in touch with who you need to get in touch with, Tim. We'll get you taken care of. Okay. How's everything in Auburndale today? Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on the Casey Anthony documentary or case? Yeah, I think a lot of people have that question. How could it go 31 days?
As a juror, if I was on that jury, no matter what the evidence was, that right there is something because I can't understand. You know, you got to feed your child, you got to feed your child, you got to, spend time with your child, and for whatever reason, for 31 days, you're going to tell me you don't recognize your child's visiting.
Well, here's one thing I'll add to that. Let's assume for the fact that the allegations she made against her father are true. Trauma from sexual abuse at a young age can have a profound impact on a person's life and the way that they behave and act and respond to traumatic situations. And obviously, this is the defense attorney in me speaking. I handle sexual abuse cases on a regular basis, and that is something that is a very common theme or a very common trait or characteristic among individuals that have been sexually abused as children. And sometimes they go on to sexually abuse children themselves. And that, so it can have a very profound impact on how people react in situations.
But Tim, we appreciate you calling in, and I'm going to hop on to another caller. But you take care of Auburndale. That's where I grew up playing my Little League baseball. So I have fond memories of right there by where they cut the citrus and the railroad track.
Yeah,
right there. We played on.
Remember that old shake shop there?
Yeah,
yeah,
the shake shop.
I played tennis at the little county park there, right in the middle of downtown.
Well, were you zoned to go to Auburndale to be a bloodhound, and then Lake Region was built, and we both went?
I believe
Were you a Blue Devil?
I would have been in the middle between Winter Haven and Auburndale. I think Auburndale because that's where my cousin went when she lived with us.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, hey, Tim, thanks for calling from Auburndale. We appreciate it. Have a Merry Christmas. All righty, 877-943-9673 to be part of today's show. 877-943-9673. Before we get to a very patient Richard in Fort Myers, to reach me at the law office, if you want Attorney Matthew Kendall's information, I'll be happy to pass it along to you at the office. Or if you want to schedule your consultation with me, Attorney Patrick Smith, for the Clearwater office location, Sarasota, Sun City Center, any of our office locations, one toll-free number to call and schedule your consultation, 877-754-6764, 877-754-6764. That's our toll-free number. The office is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. You can reach the office, and the staff will be happy to get you scheduled for your complimentary consultation with me, Attorney Patrick Smith, 877-754-6764. And as I promised at the top of the show, an update on our short-term rental controversy brewing in Indian Rocks Beach. There will be a town hall meeting at Indian Rocks Beach Town Hall, which will be this Tuesday, December 13th, 7 p.m. As of right now, I plan to be in attendance to see what sort of comes of this meeting regarding our discussion of the short-term rental controversy. So again, that will be this Tuesday, December 13th at 7 p.m. And again, we have renewed our invitation to all parties involved, including local government, to participate in the dialogue we're having here on the show. And hopefully they will take us up on that, and we can continue to have that discussion and better enrich you, our listeners, to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. All right, now let's go to Fort Myers and let's talk to Richard. Richard, thank you for your patience and welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How can I help you today?
Hi, sir. I paid $2,500 to a body shop to pay my form through. And he gave me a receipt. He said the balance was due, paid in full, and gave me cash. And he took my truck off the park, took the grill off, and that truck off my sofa, set it out in the ditch in front of the business. It sat there for 6 weeks. And finally, I had enough of that. I need to see him. So I went and seen him. And when I got there, there was 500 people there. And they were all complaining about the same thing. He showed up with a police car. The police stood there listening to everybody's complaint. And they gave every one of us a no trespass warrant and did take him to court. I had to tow my truck out of there and take it to another body shop. And they charged me $1,500 to put my truck back together. And then I had to just sell it for $1,000. I applied to Florida Attorney General's office, and they referred me to the Florida Department of Commerce, I think it is, that regulates body shops.
Yes, sir.
I sent all documentation, pictures, receipts, everything. And so they took the complaint and I got a thing in the mail yesterday that says if he doesn't respond in 30 days, the case is dropped. The guy shut down his business and he moved from 5 blocks down the street to another building, and he's operating, doing the same thing again. Every time he posts something on Facebook, on a bike shop with a picture of it, I mark scam, and Facebook goes after him for scam. And I'm a disabled veteran on Social Security, and I'm out $2,500, and I'm out a $4,500 truck. What can I do?
So, Richard, did you sign any sort of service agreement or contract with the body shop at the time you enlisted them for their services?
I signed a contract for him to paint the truck for $2,500.
I need to see that contract, Richard, because we're going to hang our hat there. We're going to live or die on the 4 corners of what's in that contract. So if you can get a copy to my office, I'll be happy to review it with you, okay, free of charge, and help you understand where you are and what it's going to take to get you to where you want to be, okay?
An address, or just call your office?
Yeah, just call the main office line, which is 877-754-6764. And thank you for your service, Richard. Which branch were you with?
82nd Airport Paratrooper.
Well, that's terrific. My father was U.S. Army. So again, Richard, we really appreciate your service, and get us that contract, and we will, do our best to get you pointed in the right direction to get you some resolution. Okay. Thank you, Richard. God bless you. Have a Merry Christmas. All righty, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. Kendall, one more time, just for those who may have pen and paper handy and want to get your contact information, go ahead and give out how the best way to reach you.
All right, probably the easiest and the best way is just go to floridadefense.com. Florida is spelled out, so it's floridadefense.com. That'll have our office number. It'll have we have a chat. You can do an email request, or you can send your questions through the chat, and somebody will get out to us. But 727-446-4800 is the main number, and but the website has all the information.
All right. And if you want to reach me at the office during the week, Attorney Patrick Smith, it's 877-754-6764. Let's go quickly to Bradenton and talk to Robert. Robert, I have about 30 seconds. Hey, Robert, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you do it pretty quickly? Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, my son applied to a local university during COVID. There was some issues with his registration. They signed him up for courses he didn't have prerequisites for. He went back and forth for months and months, trying to get switched to a different location. COVID hit. He had also signed up for housing.
Hey, Robert, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to have production hold you, and I'll pick you up off the air and answer your question, okay? All right, this is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Everyone stay safe, God bless, and go Gators. Surprisingly slow. I thought people would call me.
Usually always do.
I mean, no, I think it was the topic. I think Casey. I thought that would generate a lot of buzz.
Usually have to be a caller one after the other.
Well, we were getting calls. It was just not callable back.
Yeah.
And so, but, oh well, we got to promote you some, so that's good.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So why is you in like 10 minutes before the 9 time?
That's so. It's just they run commercials, and that's the top of the hour news has to run and all that. So
Gotcha.
that's why we're looking into adding a second hour. So just to get more time, because and it's always like that. The calls start to build right at the end. So.
I was expecting more,
Sure. So I was with you until COVID hit.